Hi, I'm Izzy and I work as a fire lookout here in northern Alberta. And a couple of weeks ago, I made a tour video about my tower all the way up there. And if you watch that, you might have realized it is very, very small up there. And if you have watched any of my other videos, you would know I don't actually live up there. Me and Dingo actually live down here in this cabin down on the ground. It's only about 50 meters away from the tower, so still very, very close. And I thought since we did a tour of the tower, we should do a tour of the cabin as well, mainly so if my family wants to know what it's like, they can see it. And also it probably is just good if you're going to be becoming a lookout here in northern Alberta to kind of know what your accommodation is and what it's like compared to that of American style lookouts, where it's all together, your tower and your cabin. So the very first thing you enter when you're coming into the cabin is my patio. The patio is about 8 feet across and 13 feet long. So it is roughly around 100 square feet. And I mainly use it for storing all of my wash and drinking water, as well as like my empty bins, random stuff from previous lookouts. I find having this patio is really, really nice for bug control as well as dirt control, because it's just one more barrier to get those things inside the house. So if flies are in here, I can zap them with my fly swatter before going inside and hopefully preventing them from getting inside the cabin as well. And it's the same thing with dirt and all of that sort of grime, because I can take my boots off and leave them out in here. And same with Dingo, I can wipe his paws and everything out here before it has that opportunity to go inside. Lots of the newer style cabins, such as my own, have this screen down patio. Old style cabins just didn't have them at all. Now we're inside the cabin. So the cabin from end to end is about 29 feet, and width-wise, it is about 13 feet total. So it's right around 375 square feet, which is so much bigger than I think any of the lookouts down in the States. Looking at right behind me is my desk. I was working on a puzzle, but it has been a really hectic season, so that has kind of fallen to the wayside. But my desk is kind of just a catch-all. I throw random stuff on it, like all my bug spray, trail cam that I haven't actually used, and it's just random sort of storage. Same with the drawers, and I just shove bins underneath it. Like there's a bin under there and bins along the side. So it's more of, I would say, like a catch-all corner. So I have a map on this side, which is just the entire forest area, which is really helpful for when I'm down here and I hear a detection come across the radio. I can kind of look at the map and be like, that is 200 kilometers away from me. I probably don't need to go up and start searching for that smoke. I have a visible area map that honestly I never look at. To my visible area map, I have a couple of different sort of quick reference things. So just quick reference for different weather and green up. This here I use all the time, which is just like what the general kind of schedule is for different hazards. And if I were to get evacuated, it is in my lookout binders, and I have a quick thing on, a quick evacuation plan too. But if you're getting evacuated and you're getting evacuated quick, you're probably not going to go searching through the binder. And so this is just a nice little quick reference of if I was going to get evacuated. If you watched my video of my tower, this box probably looks very familiar to you. It is where I used to be able to turn my generator on and off from without having to go outside. we changed generators, and so that no longer functions. Similar to the box upstairs though, I do have one 12-volt plug to charge things when my generator is not off. So right now I'm charging my switch, and just like how it's super helpful to have upstairs, it's also super helpful to have down here. Just being able to charge even one thing at a time is really helpful, and I'm glad that I have it. Also on the desk is where I keep this radio, so if they're calling me or whatever, I can hear it from down here. And I also charge my handheld down here as well. To the right of the desk is our bedroom. So since our cabin is much bigger, we're able to have bigger beds than the typical lookouts I think people imagine, and well, the alpine lookouts do. We have much bigger bedrooms, just much more space. So because of this, I get to have a nice double bed. My first year, they were like, yeah, you'll have a single bed or a twin bed. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't really care. And then I got here and none of my sheets fit, because instead of having a single bed, I had a double bed. It's just nice having the double bed, I think, too, because it's both me and Dingo. And Dingo likes to cuddle, as you can see. And so having a bigger bed just makes it a lot more comfortable for me and for him. Don't fall! This is also where Dingo hangs out during the day when I'm on like high and extreme hazard and I'm up in the tower for extended periods of time. He stays in here just so he doesn't get into mischief. Not that he's very mischievous, but he does like to eat pens and pencils and tape. So he hangs out in here. He has a cooling mat and his bed, and obviously his water. Just in front, I guess, of the bed is our closet. It is very large. I also just use it for storage, like with bedding and just random stuff. Like they gave me a table lamp. I don't need a table lamp. So I put that in here, and like coffee pot and random like cleaning supplies also gets to go in here. Over here, still in the bedroom, is this cabinet. I think the goal of it was supposed to be, it's supposed to be like a vanity sort of situation, but it is nice extra storage. You are needy today. I mainly use it for like towels and random like toiletries and band-aids and first aid and everything like that. And it also does have a drawer for more like quick access things like muscle relief. That brings us to the final thing in the bedroom, which is behind this door, the shower basin. So I do not have plumbing. I don't have running water. And so I rarely use this shower basin because for it really to work, you have to fill up this, which is a solar shower that you fill up and leave out in the sun for a couple of hours. And then you have to lift it up and put it on the hook up there. I only really use the solar shower maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire summer when like my dad is coming to visit and I don't want to be really smelly. So it really goes unused. I also just use it to keep this, which is the Wonder Wash, which I also don't use because I prefer to hand wash my clothes. And then opposite my bedroom on the other side from the desk, so to the left side, is this big space. It's a little bit bigger than the patio is, but not actually by a whole lot. I think it's like an extra 3 feet longer, which is nice. And obviously it's wider. And along this wall, which I'd call like the far wall because it's farthest from the tower, is my kitchen. I have a solar fridge. I wouldn't say I dislike it, but I definitely think there's room for improvement when it comes for fridges. I think it's a really good size, and I can fit enough food for an entire month in it, which is really good. My problem with it is that it only has one dial that controls both the freezer and the fridge. And if you turn it up too high, so the freezer, freezes, it starts freezing the back half of the fridge, which isn't really great. But if you turn that dial low, so the fridge is at what it's meant to be, then the freezer stops freezing really well unless things are all the way at the very, very back or are completely laid flat, which I know is typical in freezers. If the further forward, the less freezing it is, but it's kind of to an extreme. Like, I brought ice cubes my first year and my ice wouldn't freeze. So there's that. Stove and oven, it runs off of propane versus solar, so it's not electric. It is not gas, it is propane, which I guess propane is a gas. I really like the stove. I think it works really well. These hold a lot of heat, so turning down the temperature after you boil something really doesn't do anything. In general, I do not like the oven of this, just because having the pilot light on actually produces a good amount of heat. It starts to smell a little bit, and it just uses my propane that I don't really need it to be using. So I turn it off. It doesn't have an electric starter like the stovetop does, and so I have to be constantly relighting it whenever I want to use it, which isn't very often, but still it's kind of annoying. Like I mentioned back at the shower, I don't have plumbing in the same way that your typical house does, or even some off-grid cabins that will have big water systems and a well and all of that. I don't have any of that, and that also includes for my kitchen sink, obviously. So, but I am lucky enough that I have this faucet, and it is hooked up to a rain barrel in the back that is set up on a pedestal, which I'll show you, which means if it has enough water in it, I get a running tap. When I'm not able to run the tap, I just use those buckets of wash water you saw out in the patio. But having one running tap makes a world of difference for washing dishes and rinsing stuff off. And so I'm just very grateful I have this one tap. Then I have my microwave and toaster, which both of these run off of the generator. So right now, as you can see, it's off. It doesn't work because my generator is not turned on. But my first year, I had a toaster oven, and it was the bane of my existence, and I hated it. So last year, I got a microwave and an actual toaster, and it works 10 times better. I'm not going to be drinking the water that comes out of the rain barrel, and so I just have a chair here, and all of my drinking water is out of these 5-gallon jugs. Here I got one of these electric pumps. Next to my water, I have this table. I use this table kind of as a desk and just general, if I'm down here on the ground and I'm not lying in bed or doing some sort of chore, chances are I'm going to be sitting here. And I have a DVD player, so I can be able to watch things and eat my meals here. And it kind of is nice as extra counter space sometimes too, because most of the counter space in the kitchen is being used for something. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'll angle you down. But Dingo also really likes to hang out underneath the table, especially when eating and stuff. And so he has his bed down there. Have this big bookshelf that just has a lot of reference binders for lookout stuff. And then I have a shelf with books that were left behind from previous lookouts and some of my own, but I mainly just keep my yarn for my knitting on here. All of my DVDs that I brought out with me this year are there, and then this is just has my first aid kit and stuff. But more importantly over here, or if you ask Dingo, he would tell you that's more important, is it's where all of Dingo's stuff is. So all of his food, all of his treats, behind me, all of his toys, where he eats, and everything is kept over in this corner. Lots of lookouts will have different furniture setups. Lots of them will have a couch, which I am very jealous of, and then people like me get chairs like this, and it doesn't even recline, which is kind of disappointing. So I don't really sit in this chair very much. Dingo will lay in it sometimes when I'm down here for the day. He'll like to lie up here or sit on here and look out the window, but yeah, I think it would be much better if this was either a recliner or if it was actually like a love seat or a little sofa. Last big thing inside is this. And earlier when I was showing you everything on the wall and I said, oh yeah, this box is for my thermostat, but it's turned off. That is this. This is my furnace. It puts out a lot of heat. It works extremely well. It will heat up this entire space within minutes if you turn it up. Since it is really warm now though, I really never run this anymore. So I don't even have gas running to it anymore. I have the propane turned off just because even the pilot light produces heat and uses gas. So I'm not gonna run it. It's the next day, hence the change in pants. But yesterday we did finish off actually looking at everything inside, and I was going to publish this video, but then I realized I should show you the outside as well, so I don't need to make an entirely separate video and way shorter video for that. So this video is just going to be longer. Obviously, we're already at like 17 or 18 minutes, but I'll show you around the outside. It shouldn't take too long, and yeah, then you'll have seen everything essentially here at the lookout that is important. Or not important, that we need. Not even that. Everything that I use to live. You might have realized there is no bathroom inside. So I have this outhouse. It's nothing special. It's just an outhouse. It is here now. It was over there in my first year and it got full. So they just dug a new hole and we moved it here. Lookout sites here in Alberta will also have this. It's a burn barrel, so you can burn your trash in here so you don't have garbage accumulation. I don't use this because I just store my garbage in the engine shed, and then every month I take it out and bring it into town to throw out, just because I don't really feel like burning garbage. If you're not burning garbage but you want to have a fire, I do have a fire pit. It has only been used once since I've been here by my dad, and half of it is taken over by a giant anthill. Picnic table, it is very large and I wish I used it more, but when it gets buggy in the evening, the last thing I really want to do is eat my meal with mosquitoes outside. But what I'll do is, Dingo, come up, up, is I will use it to groom Dingo. So that way I don't have to bend over to brush him. That rain barrel I was talking about that makes it so I have a functioning faucet. Just runs through this tube here, goes behind this metal thing and into the wall. And that is how I have a functioning sink. The propane tank, this is what runs my stove and my heater. It used to also power my generator, but I don't remember if I mentioned it already, but we switched generators. I think I did. And so my generator no longer runs on this. I forget how many liters of propane, or how many gallons, I suppose, of propane this holds, but it's a lot. The last building, this is my engine shed, and it is where my generator lives. So I'll bring you inside and show you it. It's not that exciting though. I have a whole bunch of like yard tools, animal traps typically live in here, but I have 2 set up right now, and my generator, which powers everything. So right now, none of the electricity in the cabin is on, but if I turn this on, now everything would have power inside, but I don't actually need it on right now, so I'll just turn that off. All along this wall is just all the stuff for my power. So like the solar panel that is outside, which I'll show you, and this does also get charged from the generator as well. And yeah, it's all the solar stuff, as well as these 2 batteries. I was broken into my first season here and my second season here, and they did try to break in this year as well, but were unsuccessful. And when they break in, they typically steal all of this, and so this all is actually now taken out at the end of my season, just so that way if they do break in successfully, they're not having to replace all of this, because it is very expensive, as well as my tools always get stolen, so now we take those out as well. The solar panel runs my fridge and is what's running all the radios and those 12-volt plugs as well. So all of those things are coming from here. I don't understand why more of the electronics and things aren't powered by the solar panel, because if each one of those are 100 watts, like there's 600 watts of solar panel at least, but I'd imagine that those are probably more like 200 watts each, just based off of the size. So they definitely have a way more solar power than what we're actually using. Apparently, the year before I got here, someone stood at the no shooting sign on the road, stood at it, and shot out the solar panels. So that's a fun fact. That kind of concludes our tour of the cabin and the other things on my lookout site. So hopefully it gives a bit of insight on where I live and work during the summer months. And if you're becoming a lookout yourself, gives you a bit of an idea of what your site and what the facilities are like. Obviously, lots of the different lookout sites vary bit by bit, but for the most part, they're all relatively similar. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, where me and Dingo will, yes, hello.